It's the Kyle Hyman Show on Redeemer Radio.
This is Kyle Hyman, and here to talk about a book that you could just read a little bit each day for a whole year and learn and grow in your faith. It's A Year with the Mystics, Visionary Wisdom for Daily Living from Kathryn Jean Lopez. Thanks for being here, Kathryn.
Thank you so much for having me on.
It is my pleasure. Would you consider yourself to be a contemplative person?
Well, we're all called to it, so I certainly hope so. And it's super countercultural, right?
Right.
I live in New York City. I'm talking to you from the shadow of the Empire State Building, lots of tall buildings.
Yeah.
So part of my goal with this book, A Year with the Mystics, is to help people out of all of the noise and the chaos in our lives that feel so overwhelmingly busy. As you noted, it's a year with format, so it's one reflection each day, one meditation, mostly from saints, not exclusively, but meditations in the heart of the church. And I picked the meditations in this book because they helped me in the craziness of New York City and other places I go. And with the background of having I've been at National Review magazine for over 20 years. I was the editor of our website for many of those years. And I sort of prided myself on being ahead of the news, right? If you can even do that. Uh-huh. So I was the junkiest of news junkies. And, you can't do that for your entire life. Right. There's something about that that's not all that healthy. And right now, I was the biggest dork, I have to tell you. When I was a kid, I was watching C-SPAN. I mean, I loved politics and thought it was so important and wanted to know why other people didn't realize how important it was. Well, now we're a nation that's watching politics as a reality TV show.
Right.
And we really need to stop and reflect on the power of virtue, God's will for us in our lives, which we can come to know if we give him time. Mm-hmm. I hope that this book is a help to people. I actually put it together almost inadvertently. This is part of a series that St. Benedict's Press has put out for a number of years. And,
sure.
And over the years, I had interviewed a couple of authors of the other books. And I think it was when I interviewed Paul Thigpen who did A Year with the Saints. And he did another one, I think, too. I proposed to them, I said, you guys really need to do A Year with the Mystics. And that was because I wanted to read it and I wanted to be able to give it to other people. And so, long story short, I wound up putting it together myself. And I've already, there was a sale on Amazon the other day, actually, and I bought 10 copies to give away to people.
Of your own book?
So, yes. Which is a little awkward. I feel a little awkward giving people a book with my name on it. But, I really feel like a curator more than an author because this is
Sure.
St. Augustine and Catherine of Siena and John of the Cross and Mother Teresa and John Paul II. They're the authors. I'm not.
Right. I don't think it's awkward that you're giving away your own book. I think it's awkward that you have to pay for them on Amazon.
But you know what? The way I look at it is, I put the content together, but St. Benedict's Press did such a beautiful job binding it. It's just a beautiful, beautiful book.
These books are so cool.
Imitation leather, and it's a keeper. It's the kind of book you hold on to, you use for more than a year. I find myself, ever since I had the courage to open up my review copy because I was terrified of finding typos, I dip in and out. I just open the book and pray with whatever page I wind up on. I just opened up to Angela Foligno, and so maybe I'll be praying with her today.
So why do we need, you said this is so important that we all should be contemplative. Why is that something that we need, this quiet time in prayer?
Well, part of the reason that I wanted A Year with the Mystics to exist is because a couple of years ago, Jennifer Fulwiler, the Catholic radio host and best-selling author, who's a friend of mine, wrote an introduction to a book of another, a mutual friend of ours, Gary Jansen, on Ignatian spirituality and the Station of the Cross, a great little slim volume. And I had given a copy to someone in my family, and I said, a friend of mine wrote this, and I think you'll get something out of it. And she read the introduction that Jennifer had written of Gary's book, and she said to me, "You didn't tell me that your friend is a mystic." And you can almost hear like the background music, spooky. Good for Halloween time, right? But the fact of the matter is, if you look at the catechism talks about how we're all called to mysticism, and that mysticism is simply union with God. And our journey of faith in our lives is preparing us for perfect union with God, right, in heaven. And so we have to be contemplative if this is part of our call, right? And just practically speaking, how on earth can you come to know God's will in your life, recognize his presence in the world, in people you encounter and in situations, if you don't spend a little time with him to encounter him and to get to know him? A couple of years ago, it was the last year of Pope Benedict's papacy in December of that year. And I happened to be in Rome for a conference, Catholic church leaders from the Americas in different walks of life. And Pope Benedict came out. We had an opening mass. He didn't celebrate it, but he came out afterward in St. Peter's Basilica. And I'll never forget it. I was sort of like taken aback at first because I thought, our sweet Holy Father is going to say some encouraging words. Well, he actually kind of rebuked us. And he said, you people, I mean, it was so powerful. If you people call yourselves Catholic leaders, you better be encountering Jesus Christ every day in prayer. And if you're not, none of your new evangelization strategies, and at the time we all had, those were the buzzwords. We were all talking about new evangelism. Everybody had a strategy or a book or a program. It's worth nothing if you're not encountering Jesus Christ. And, it's a real danger. I know plenty of people, there's a phrase that always makes me cringe, professional Catholic, people who run nonprofits or work for the church, or it's a real danger if you're a, quote, professional Catholic, to get to the point where you're doing your job, but you don't actually know Jesus Christ anymore because you think you're too busy doing good work, and it's sort of well-intentioned. But likewise with people who don't work for the church or do something explicitly Catholic, there's a real danger. You become so overwhelmed and so busy and so caught up in your screen that you're not taking time to reflect on who you are in God's eyes and how you're present with him and how you need to be going forward.
Sure. We're talking with Kathryn Jean Lopez. The book is A Year with the Mystics, Visionary Wisdom for Daily Living, and mentioned how nice of a book. Like if you were one to judge a book by its cover, this is one that you would definitely pick out. And in fact, like I didn't even know what the book was. I just saw it sitting there on our pile, and I was immediately drawn to it. It's like
you're drawn to it, yeah.
This imitation leather and the gold on the edges and the ribbon, which is particularly good for this day by day thing. So you put your ribbon where you left off from the day before. You said anybody is called to the mystical life. So what was your cutoff for who would be in the book and who wouldn't be in the book?
That was a process that took a really long time. But I wanted to make sure that in the end, and this is the case now that it exists, that you had in there a mix of people that we know for their activity and people who are more traditionally known for being masters of the spiritual life, like John of the Cross and Teresa of Avila. But I wanted to make sure that we had Mother Teresa and John Paul II and John the 23rd, whose interior life I think is very underappreciated. But his spiritual diaries are just so beautiful and should be required reading for every diocesan priest because his interior life was just so rich. I also included people like Elizabeth Ann Seton and Mother Cabrini, who were known for their missionary work. And actually, a funny story. At some point, I don't know why, I was Googling Elizabeth Ann Seton. I must have been looking for something. I think I was looking for a misplaced book, and I think I was looking for it at a used bookstore or something. And there was one of the first links when you Google her name. I don't know if it's still the case. It was a little bio of her, and it began by saying that she wasn't anything extraordinary like a mystic, And I burst out laughing instead of crying, because again, talking about the need to demystify this word is so grave, so urgent. If you read her spiritual writings, her letters, her diaries, the interior life, the prayer life was the fuel for the activity. But the missionary activity came from that deep love that she had for Jesus and knowledge of his love for her. If we miss that, it's a tragedy.
So do you have a favorite mystic in the book or a favorite reflection?
Oh, I honestly have so many. I just mentioned a moment ago Angela Foligno, who Pope Francis canonized, and I think is such a gift to us that we should read more of. And so you have the opportunity to in there. I love Kathryn of Siena. At one point, I actually, in this long process of putting this together, at one point I declared to the publisher, we really need to do a year with Kathryn of Siena's letters because they are so rich. I actually, at some point in the process of putting this together, I invested in there's a 4-volume set of her letters by a Dominican sister who lives in Wisconsin, that are beautiful, and Dominican priests had recommended it to me, but it's a 4-volume set and it costs a little more, than the average book. So not everyone's going to buy it. And you have to buy it at used bookstores at this point. And, but so I tried to include, some of that in here, and I do love her. Somebody I discovered, really, I hadn't paid much attention to him, except for maybe the occasional reflection in Magnificat. St. Gregory of Narek, who Francis actually declared a doctor of the church. And when you read some of his poetry and prayers, I mean, I certainly read it and I thought, oh my goodness, this man understands my heart and draws your heart closer to God. Really beautiful, almost as powerful as or akin to the Psalms. You know how every emotion is experienced in the Psalms, expressed in the Psalms. Similar with Gregory of Narek. Really, really beautiful.
So with this being a day-by-day thing, how do you suggest that somebody read through this?
As I note in the beginning of the book, have some freedom with the way you approach this book. Mm-hmm. It's great to make a commitment to do one a day. And you can start, I know people who have gotten the book already who, one friend of mine is on day 16 now. She's doing one day by day. But as I said before, you could also just dip in and out. Actually, that friend of mine, Gary Jansen, who was accused of being a mystic, he also did a book called The 15-Minute Prayer Solution. And in it, he points out that 15 minutes a day is 1% of your day. Mm-hmm. So I know everybody is busy, and I particularly have empathy and compassion for moms with a lot of kids, but we can find 15 minutes. Sure. And that is 1% of your day. And you can definitely take one of these reflections in 15 minutes. And one of the things I think makes this book really accessible to anyone of the spiritual life, I think you'll find these meditations fruitful. So no pages over 400 words that, some of them went right to 400, but others I kept a little lighter. There's a little white space in the book too, and I actually already found myself writing in it.
Sure. All right. Well, where can people get the book?
So it's on Amazon. It's at handbooks.com. And if you follow me on Twitter at Kathryn Lopez, and I write regularly for nationalreview.com where I'm employed.
All right, great. Again, the book is A Year with the Mystics, Visionary Wisdom for Daily Living. So thank you so much, Kathryn Jean Lopez, for sharing it with us.
Thank you so much.